Training mit binären Optionen.
I have a question for you. How would you like to quadruple your wealth in the next 12 months? Well, if you know the answer to the following simple riddle, then you have a very good chance of doing so. Here it is. Do you know what a fax machine, a credit card, and the internet have in common? I'm going to tell you the answer in exactly 5 minutes. But in the meantime, I'd like to tell you a quick story about a businessman named Frank McNamara. You see, it was a blistery cold evening in 1949, and Frank had invited a number of his most esteemed colleagues to dinner at Longchamp's restaurant located in the Empire State Building. Now, little did he know that at the end of the meal, he would go on to make an embarrassing mistake that would end up changing the world forever. Among other things, this fateful error would ultimately spawn a $21.6 trillion industry, redefine the way business was done in nearly every country on Earth, and launch countless Fortune 500 companies. In just a moment, you'll learn what that mistake was. But more importantly, you'll discover everything you need to know about a new groundbreaking technology that could bring the 64-year-old industry McNamara unwittingly created to its knees. Not to mention force thousands of companies all over the world, perhaps even your own, to completely rethink the way they do business. Investors who get in early on the secret behind this world-changing technology stand to make some truly legendary profits. Exactly how much are we talking about? Well, if you invested just $1,000 in December of 2011, that $1,000 would be worth $266,000 today. That's a 26,000% return. If you invested just $1,000 in January 2013, when I told our subscribers to invest, that $1,000 would be worth $50,000 today. Many folks followed my advice, made a 5,000% return, and send me thank you emails all the time. Now, think about your own investment portfolio for the last few years. Have you seen 5,000%, 100%, or even 10% returns? If you haven't made this money, don't worry. I have some great news for you. I think the trend is going to continue upward for at least the next few years, and we will continue to see returns in the hundreds and possibly thousands of percent. So what is this mystery new technology? Bitcoin. You may have heard about it in the news, but I can guarantee that you don't have the whole story. But who am I to be making such predictions? My name is Max Wright, and I'm the author of The Bitcoin Revolution, Ending Tyranny for Fun and Profit. And according to Amazon readers, it's rated hands down the best Bitcoin resource available. I published The Bitcoin Revolution back in May of 2013, back when Bitcoin was just $150 per coin. 5 months prior to that, I told all of my paid members to buy Bitcoin. In January 2013, Bitcoin was just $12 per coin. Now, I don't make that statement to brag or boast, but rather to convey to you the importance for you to keep watching this video. Yeah, I know, another strong statement, but the reality is, events like the creation of the Bitcoin technology only roll around just a handful of times each century, and if you're not paying attention this time around, you'll miss it. In fact, knowing about this technology today is like being in on Intel just before PCs started showing up in every home and office in America. And I'm convinced that this could be one of the best investments of the century. Once you hear everything I'm about to tell you, I'm sure you'll see what I mean. And I think you'll agree that this is one of the most intriguing and potentially lucrative investment opportunities you've heard about in quite some time. Imagine if you bought AOL stock in 1994, just before everyone and their mother started racing to get online, and its stock shot up more than 10,000%. Or Amazon in 1997, just before e-commerce became the buzzword of the decade and its shares began to climb by 11,000%. Or Priceline.com in 2004, just before everyone started booking travel online and its share price rocketed up over 5,000%. If you add all of these up, it still doesn't even compare to the gains which I think can be made with Bitcoin. This little secret has skyrocketed over 65 million% since its invention just 5 years ago, and I believe it's still headed sky high. And just in case you were wondering, no, that is not a typo. It really has increased 65 million%, and I'm sure you'll agree that's pretty impressive. In fact, it's so big that we have to step all the way back to a frigid February evening in 1949 to put everything into perspective. As I already mentioned on that fateful night, a businessman named Frank McNamara made a mistake that would change the world forever. You see, McNamara had just finished dinner at a plush New York restaurant with his lawyer and the heir to the Bloomingdale's department store fortune when he discovered something that horrified him. McNamara had an incredibly busy workday prior to dinner and forgot to swing by the bank to withdraw cash to cover the dinner expenses. You see, back then, if you missed the 3 p.m. cutoff and the bank closed, you lost all access to your money until the bank reopened. There were no ATMs. So there was Frank, unable to pay for the lavish meal to which he had just treated his associates. Eventually, Frank was forced to call his wife and have her bring him enough cash to cover the bill. He was so thoroughly humiliated by the ordeal that he became obsessed with developing a way to never have to worry about carrying cash ever again. Now, at the time, a handful of gas stations and other businesses were issuing charge cards that allowed their customers to run up a tab and then pay for everything later. But Frank was determined to take this concept even further by developing a single multi-purpose credit card that could not only be used in place of cash, but would also be accepted at a variety of different businesses all over the city. Sure enough, 1 year later, Frank returned to the exact same restaurant with the exact same friends, and yet again, no cash whatsoever. Only this time, rather than having to get his wife to bring him money, he simply paid for the meal with a small piece of cardboard that later became known as a Diners Club card. Initially, Frank issued about 200 of these cards to friends and business associates, and at first, they were accepted at just 14 locations. But soon, Frank's little experiment sparked an all-out revolution. As you might expect, as news of this new, easier way to pay for everything, from clothes to groceries, spread, more people began wanting to get their hands on the credit card Frank had created. And before long, things really started to snowball, because as more and more people started using them, more and more businesses were forced to start accepting them or risk losing customers to competitors who did. And once more and more businesses began accepting them, even more people wanted to start using them. It began snowballing rapidly. In fact, just over 1 year after Frank paid for dinner with his Diners Club card, over 42,000 people were using them regularly in major cities all over the country. 2 years later, they were being accepted in places as far away as Canada, Cuba, Mexico, and the UK. And by 1955, they had taken hold in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. By 1959, over 1 million people were carrying the card Frank had invented, meaning its usage had gone up 5,000-fold in less than a decade. And by 1967, it was accepted in over 130 countries around the globe. Strangely enough, it's that wildfire growth in the credit card industry that brings us back to our original question. What does the fax machine, credit card, and the internet have in common? Using the power of the network effect, they reached a critical mass, or the tipping point, to become world-changing technologies. And just like the fax machine, credit card, and the internet, Bitcoin is about to do the same. I'll explain this in just a second, but first, let's find out what the network effect is. Put simply, the more people who use it, the more powerful it becomes, even for people who were already using it. Let me explain. You'd agree the first fax machine was pretty useless, right? You could not send a fax to anyone, but the millionth fax machine meant for the first time ever, you could send documents around the world instantly. And more importantly, the millionth fax machine made the first 999,000 fax machines even more useful, because there was one more location that they could send a fax to. Likewise, each new credit card user made being a credit card accepting business more valuable, and each new business made being a credit card holder more valuable. The two feed into each other, making for very rapid growth. The same goes with the internet. The first person online could not send an email, because there was no one to send an email to. But today, we all use email. The more users that have an email account, the more valuable it is. Bitcoin is at the very beginning of its network effect life cycle. With each new user, the network becomes more valuable. So just how fast are users joining Bitcoin? Well, just like with credit cards, there are two sides to understanding this growth. Having a Bitcoin wallet is like the consumer having a credit card, and a business accepting Bitcoin is like a business accepting credit cards. So, how many people are getting Bitcoin wallets? Well, here we see just one company, Blockchain, has gone from 0 to nearly 2 million users in just 24 months. That is like 2 million people getting a Visa credit card. Another company, Coinbase, reached 1 million user wallets in less than 2 years. That is like 1 million people getting a MasterCard. And there are dozens of Bitcoin wallet companies exploding all over the world. So users are growing fast. What about businesses accepting Bitcoin for payment? Here is the co-founder of BitPay, just one company that helps businesses accept Bitcoins. They are called Bitcoin payment processors.
I mean, we've seen Overstock.com, we've seen some big players, WordPress, but the major retailers, the major merchants, when do you think they'll catch on?
I think a lot sooner than people imagine today. I think many of them are looking at it already and sort of evaluating and projecting what the future 2 to 3 years out is going to look like.
How quickly are you signing up merchants to your program?
500 to 1,000 new merchants a week.
Coinbase also report adding approximately 1,000 new businesses each week. And these are just 2 companies in the US. And just like with Frank McNamara's Diners Club card, Bitcoin is exploding internationally as well. Bitcoin payment processor companies have started up in Europe, Asia, and South America, all in the last 12 months. Just like credit cards all those decades ago, the Bitcoin payment system is taking the world by storm. But it's still very early days yet, which is great for you and me because that spells opportunity for us. Now let's talk about the moment a new technology reaches the point of critical mass, or its tipping point. This concept was first made famous by the book The Tipping Point, How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference by Malcolm Gladwell. Gladwell describes the concept of the tipping point as the moment of critical mass, the threshold, the boiling point. And once this point is reached, mass adoption explodes in just a few short years and is then considered mainstream. Once this explosion in growth is finished, the opportunity for incredible life-changing profits has passed. The key is to get involved just before the tipping point. Once everyone is using it, doing it, or knows about it, it is probably too late to invest and expect incredible gains. So let's look at how close we are to Bitcoin's tipping point. In this chart, we see a typical adoption curve. The innovators are the pioneers who see the technology's potential. The early adapters are the entrepreneurs and tech-savvy folks who build the infrastructure around the technology to make it useful. The early majority can use the new technology with relative ease, and the late majority come along once all the problems are solved. The old-timers or laggards struggle behind as they probably don't like change and want to stick with what they know. But the curve eventually forces everyone into adoption because the new way is simply better. With the internet, tech geeks were the innovators in the early 1990s, working with C:// and run in order to send a single email, which took about 10 minutes to do and only a few people who could actually receive it on the other end. It wasn't until the infrastructure was built that made sending email as easy as compose, type, send. That is when the early and late majorities and laggards came along. Now it's so easy that your grandmother is sending emails with ease and probably even has her own Facebook account. Bitcoin is very much like the beginning of the internet. It is my opinion that we are actually still in the innovator early adapter stage and on the cusp of hitting the tipping point. The point where usage explodes because the innovators create the technology that makes it as simple as compose, type, send. They make it grandmother ready, if you will. And those who get involved before the early and late majorities will make heaps of money as the masses climb on board. And this is where Bitcoin shines. You see, let's say we're back in the 90s and you knew that the internet was going to be the next big thing. How do you make money on it? Well, unfortunately, you still have to pick a horse. You could invest in Google or AltaVista or Excite or one of the other major search engines that we don't even remember. You could not just invest in the internet. The internet is just a protocol that all of these companies use. It was free and unlimited and anyone could use it. There was no way to make money without investing in a company. Bitcoin is a protocol too. And yes, there is hundreds of millions of dollars of VC money racing to build the next killer app. In the Bitcoin world, some will succeed and some will fail. But because Bitcoin is limited and all of these companies need Bitcoin to make their businesses work, it is possible to not worry about which company will create the next best thing. As long as one of them succeeds, the value of Bitcoin will go up. Rather than bet on the horse, it's possible to own the racetrack. I want you to write that down. With Bitcoin, rather than pick a horse, it's possible to own the racetrack. I am not alone in my opinions on this topic, by the way. In the last few months, I've been to tons of Bitcoin conventions in Texas, New York, Toronto, and Amsterdam, and all of the experts agree on one thing. It's early days for Bitcoin, and the earning potential in the next few years is huge. Here are just a few opinions from thought leaders in technology and finance. Bitcoin is a technological tour de force, Bill Gates, Microsoft co-founder. While Al Gore, former US president and Nobel Peace Prize winner, stated, "I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. Regulation of money supply needs to be depoliticized." And eBay CEO John Donahoe said, "We think Bitcoin will play a very important role in the future. It's on our radar screen." Even Sir Richard Branson owns Bitcoin. So what do these tech and business geniuses know that the masses don't? that Bitcoin is here to stay, and there is a ton of money to be made in the process. And let's be honest, we're here today to talk about making money. So let's talk money. As of April 2014, Bitcoin venture capitalists have increased their investments by more than $27 million. That's totaling $113 million in the first 4 months of this year. This is a 29% increase over the total amount for the whole of last year, which stands at $88 million. And in 2012, Bitcoin startups raised just $2 million. Check out these quick clips to see how much VC money is pouring into the Bitcoin ecosystem.
The future of online payments may end up in the hands of Bitcoin. Today, news broke that a former Visa executive joined BitPay, and more than $200 million has been invested in Bitcoin startups since 2012, and that number is growing quickly.
The smartest people I know are all building 10, 20 companies each on the Bitcoin protocol today. Right? And so we expect that to have a major impact on the business world and then subsequently the finance world much quicker than people would realize.
What's also amazing is that they're not just Bitcoin evangelists and VCs out there, but when we were at SALT, I was talking to a lot of hedge fund guys, and people with billions of dollars in assets under management were investing privately in Bitcoin because they also believe that money was flowing there for a good reason.
Well, and it's more than just a new currency, and it's more than a payment system. I mean, really what Bitcoin does, it's 31,000 lines of code that removes the middleman from financial services. So similar to how Henry Ford used the manufacturing line, the assembly line to change manufacturing, that's what Bitcoin is going to be doing to financial services. So there's a big future here. It's not necessarily just about the price of Bitcoin.
Well, I think people have certainly done a head fake in terms of the concerns around the exchanges and whatnot. But I mean, the cryptography used in Bitcoin is something that can be used in contracts. It can be used in all the things that we're going to be using with our fingerprints. So this is why it's attracting every use across the spectrum. And actually, the volatility in Bitcoin spot is way down, which is interesting over the last month.
Here in the U.S., Bitcoin has really kind of taken the markets by storm, and it's still really difficult to invest large dollar amounts in Bitcoin as an institution. And we launched the Bitcoin Investment Trust last year really to make provide a safe, secure way to invest in Bitcoin. And the response has really been quite positive, as you mentioned, over 100,000 Bitcoin, which is about $50 million today. And so we're in the process of moving the Bitcoin Investment Trust into the public market to make it accessible to the masses.
Again, what do these venture capitalists know that the masses don't? The answer is coming in a second. The good news is most investors are still completely in the dark, meaning you can take advantage of the general population's ignorance and get in before the masses start driving the price of each Bitcoin through the roof. But if you want to maximize your upside potential, you have to act now. Of course, if you're anything like me, you're probably a bit skeptical when it comes to new technologies. You may be wondering if Bitcoin could really be as big as credit cards, PCs, or even the internet. It's a fair question, and while there are certainly no guarantees, you should probably know this. Some of the world's most brilliant minds are betting big on exactly that. Google has secretly been working in the payments team to figure out how to incorporate Bitcoin into their plans. Amazon has just been awarded a Bitcoin-related patent. And even Apple, who initially acted anti-Bitcoin, have come around and is now allowing approved virtual currencies like Bitcoin in their App Store. So what does Google, Amazon, and Apple all know? The adoption curve is coming, and it will be very, very steep. The famous hockey stick graph is certainly what leaps to mind. In my opinion, those who get in now have the opportunity of the century to make life-changing gains. Those who wait will just enjoy the benefits of this amazing technology, but will not profit from what you are hearing right now in this video. After all, anytime a market that big is about to experience a major shift, investing in the technology behind that shift is a no-brainer. So why hasn't everyone and their grandmother piled on too? Simple, because up until this past year, it was hard to use. It's just like the internet back in the 90s. Before Google, before Facebook, before YouTube, back when it took 10 minutes and computer coding skills to send an email, back when very few folks used the internet. But just like the internet, Bitcoin is changing and fast. And as soon as it does, your grandma will be using Bitcoin and it will be too late to make the big gains. By now, I imagine you're ready to hear more about the incredible way Bitcoin is revolutionizing money. And that is exactly what I have in store for you today. Because you have chosen to be an early adopter, someone who is willing to learn about this world-changing technology before the masses, you could be rewarded massively. And the rewards start right now. That is why I have created 3 Bitcoin projects. That way, no matter what your current level of understanding, you can benefit. The first is called the Bitcoin Starter Kit. This is a step-by-step video tutorial program that will teach you how to do all the basics. If you're anything like me and not very technical, the Bitcoin Starter Kit is perfect for you. But even computer experts and newbies alike will benefit from the tips and information in the Bitcoin Starter Kit. You do not need any programming skills or anything else. As long as you can send an email, then with this step-by-step video tutorial, you can use Bitcoin. In the Starter Kit, you will learn how to quickly and easily create a Bitcoin wallet in under 60 seconds, helping you safely hold and protect your coins. How to buy Bitcoins in just a day. By the way, you can start with as little as $1. How to sell Bitcoin so you can cash in your profits along the way. How to trade Bitcoin so you can purchase your everyday items with it. How to store Bitcoin safely. How to accept Bitcoin for payment for goods and services, opening up your personal business to a whole new world of Bitcoin consumers. And best security practices. Security is actually one of the most important aspects of Bitcoin and one of the most misunderstood. The Bitcoin Starter Kit will give you step-by-step instructions on best practices to keeping your Bitcoin safe. You may have heard in the news some stories about people having their Bitcoin stolen. These stories, while tragic, were easily prevented if the users just followed these simple instructions. The last thing you want to do is make a killing in Bitcoin profits, only to wake up one day and discover it has all been stolen. The Starter Kit is a must for every beginner to learn the basics and to protect themselves like a pro. The Bitcoin Starter Kit is available for just $47. But stay tuned because we have a special deal coming your way. But before I tell you about that, I want to introduce you to the next logical step in our Bitcoin suite. The second product is Bitcoin Mastery. This is the really important stuff. It goes into the full discussions of Bitcoin's philosophy. It evaluates its strengths, weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. We dive deep into the economics of Bitcoin. Who will benefit? What will the adoption curve look like? What will drive price? What will drive innovation? How will governments react? And what are the warning signs you need to be aware of when investing in Bitcoin? All of those questions will be answered. We even interview some of the original players in the Bitcoin world and find out where Bitcoin has been and where it is going. These guys are the living proof that Bitcoin can make multi-millionaires in just months. True rags to riches stories. Their insight and discussion of the highly volatile Bitcoin world is priceless. Even better is their predictions on what the next great tidal wave of profits to be made in the Bitcoin world might be. One in particular has publicly predicted 4 investments in the Bitcoin world that have each increased in value 1,000% in the last year alone. Bitcoin Mastery is for the professional and hobby investor alike. It really is one of the richest and most comprehensive educations available on Bitcoin. Given that Bitcoin Mastery has made its customers millions since it was created in January 2013, it is an absolute steal and my pleasure to offer it to you at just $97 here today. But again, stay tuned because we want to offer you something special here today. While both the Starter Kit and Bitcoin Mastery are updated as technological updates demand, they are in their nature static. They are a one-time education and a catch-up on Bitcoin, information that will make you a Bitcoin expert in no time. Our third product is very different. The exclusive Bitcoin Inner Circle is refreshed every month with up-to-the-date interviews and news from the titans of the Bitcoin world. In the Inner Circle, you will learn about new startups, new product developments, and new opportunities before the masses find out. I'm invited to many Bitcoin conferences all around the world where I meet the CEOs, the CTOs, the VCs, and everyone who is anyone in the Bitcoin space. Exclusively for members of the Bitcoin Inner Circle, I get the industry's cutting-edge news and future development plans straight from the horse's mouth and report it back to you. Bitcoin Inner Circle truly makes you one of the Bitcoin insiders, and right now, Inner Circle is a steal at just $47 per month. But as part of this special invitation, I want to make you a very exclusive offer you simply can't refuse. But before I tell you what it is, let me tell you why. You see, having attended all the major Bitcoin conferences and seeing the types of people attending, I believe that we are very close to the big institutional money rushing into Bitcoin. I'm talking about hedge funds, investment banks, and publicly traded companies. If and when the big players come in, they will send the price of Bitcoin soaring. Once again, the fat cats on Wall Street will get in before the masses, and it will be business as usual. In my opinion, with their manipulated markets, bailouts, and high-frequency trading algorithms, the fat cats already have enough advantages in their favor. All over the world, the rich is getting richer, the poor is getting poorer, and the middle class is getting wiped out. Whether you believe the government is to blame with its corporate welfare, bailouts to the big guys, and backroom deals, or you believe the government is not doing enough and we need to tax the hardworking even more and give it to the poor, either way, I think we all agree that this is not a good situation. In fact, it's downright dangerous. History teaches us that this kind of wealth divide leads to riots, revolutions, social dysfunction, and even wars. But I don't want to see that happen here. The good news is, just like the Titanic, these mega organizations don't exactly turn on a dime. I know for a fact their lawyers and due diligence teams are working out the mechanics of how to hold Bitcoin as we speak. By my estimate, we only have 6 to 12 months before they move in a big way. Bitcoin is a level playing field, a place where political favors and special privileges unattainable by you and me just do not exist. It's a special place where those with foresight and willingness to do the research can create great fortunes. A place where people who can move quickly have the advantage. We would prefer to see the little guy finally have his day. We want as much of Main Street as possible to get in on the Bitcoin phenomenon before Wall Street scoops up the opportunity. So for that reason, we want to make it an absolute no-brainer for you to learn about Bitcoin right now. So if you click on the recommended selection below right now and become a member of the Bitcoin Inner Circle for just $47 a month, we will give you complimentary access to the Bitcoin Starter Kit and Bitcoin Mastery absolutely free of charge. That means we are shamelessly bribing you with nearly $150 worth of goodies just to get you to check out the Bitcoin Inner Circle. There are no obligations of any kind, and you can cancel whenever you want with a simple email. If you decide the Bitcoin Inner Circle is not for you, just email your desire to cancel to support@successcouncil.com and you will not be billed another penny. And you can keep the Bitcoin Starter Kit and Bitcoin Mastery worth nearly $150 as our compliment to you. This is tremendous value and you really have nothing to lose because, as always, everything we do here at Success Council is backed up by a 100% money-back satisfaction guarantee. I know you won't, but if for any reason you are not satisfied with your purchase, simply email us within 30 days and we will gladly rush you a full refund. We have taken all the risk out of this for you and made it dead simple. There is just simply too big an opportunity for you to hesitate with. On average, every year of its existence, the value of a single Bitcoin has gone up tenfold. Of course, there are no guarantees, but there is plenty of reasons to think that this trend could continue and go on for another few years at least, and maybe even accelerate. The price could be skyrocketing right now as you watch this video. Don't let this risk-free opportunity pass you by. It could be the turning point of your life. Do yourself this massive favor and give yourself the gift of learning about Bitcoin right now with our easy-to-follow video tutorials. You may just look back at your decision to get started here today as one of the best decisions of your life. A year from now, I want you to feel elated by the massive profits you'll see instead of daydreaming about all of the things you could have done for you and your family with all the money you made. I don't want you to look back and regret. I want you to prosper. And starting yourself on that path is easy. Simply go ahead and click your selection below now, and within minutes, I'll email you access to my Bitcoin Starter Kit, Bitcoin Mastery, and Bitcoin Inner Circle membership so that we can get started on your training right away. Go ahead and do this now. You have absolutely nothing to lose. I can't wait to work with you, and I'll see you in the Bitcoin Inner Circle.